Good luck.
Thank you.
Who's
5
evaluating?
to 7. Okay.
Rod Fink is being evaluated by...
Me.
Murray. Mr. Toastmaster, thank you. And fellow Toastmasters, I don't see any honored guests, but I'm sure all the Toastmasters are honored. I want to talk about death and taxes. And my original title was Never Threaten to Kill an IRS Agent, but somebody told me, no, that doesn't sound too good. So I'm going to talk about death and taxes. But in death and taxes, you're dealing with two things that are inevitable. We've always heard that saying. You know, there's only two things that are inevitable, death and taxes. Well, in this encounter, I dealt with an IRS agent. Now, how I got involved with the IRS agent, it goes back to when I was in Houston. I had a business that was an ironworks. And, you know, all through our childhood, we are told never to do things. Well, I did some things with this IRS agent you're not supposed to do. You're told as a child, for instance, to never run with scissors. Why is that? Well, you know, you stick your eye with scissors. Nobody that I know has ever been hit by scissors when they ran, but that was always something we were worried about. Never take food away from a pit bull. Have you heard that one? And obvious reasons not to do that. Never swim in shark-infested waters with a belt of stakes tied around your waist. I think that would be an obvious one. I've heard never bring a knife to a gunfight, and that's kind of an obvious one. So I want to tie these together with my encounter with an IRS agent. He was kind of a pit bull, shark, and, you know, fast gunman or whatever. Anyway, I had this bankruptcy in Houston. The IRS basically owed them like $30,000, so I wound up having to make payments, $800 a month for 3 years. If that wasn't bad enough, they sent an IRS agent to my house, and they noticed my next door neighbor had all this stuff from an ironworks, which was my business. I had fabricated steel fences and railings and so forth. He saw all this stuff in my neighbor's yard, and he assumed that it was my stuff. So somehow I had stolen from my own company to hide it from the IRS, and he basically thought that I was an embezzler. So anyway, the IRS agent called me in, and I sat down with him. I was trying to be nice. Everything was going along smoothly. And he started saying, you have all this stuff that you took from the ironworks that you owe to the IRS. And not only that, we could come out to your house. And when he did this, he leaned over the table and kind of got in my face, you know, and he started threatening. Just, we could come out to your house. We could take all your stuff. We could, you know, he was naming all these things that he could do to me. Well, that didn't sit too well with me. I was trying to be real calm, and the only thing I could think of saying was, you better bring a gun. Now, turns out that's not a good thing to say to an IRS agent. He said, are you threatening me? And I said, no, but you can't call me an embezzler. So he immediately got up and left the interview. That was done. Except that what he did was he went and dialed up the federal marshal and said that Rod Fink had threatened to kill him. So it's kind of a little bit of an exaggeration of what the original combat was, but he basically said I threatened to kill him. Well, the federal marshal came to my house, put his card on my door because I wasn't there. I called him, and he explained what the guy had done, the IRS agent. And keep in mind, these IRS agents, these are not the most gentle people in the world. I heard an accountant tell me that IRS agents typically are pulled from the junkyard dog category of agents. They don't want really nice guys dealing with the public. They want the guy that's going to get in your face and make you pay. Well, I got the phone call from the federal marshal, and he said, "Mr. Fink, the IRS agent said you threatened to kill him." And I just started laughing, because after going bankrupt and having to pay all this money, on top of that, now I have this thing with the IRS. And so I said, "No, that's not what happened. He called me an embezzler. He lied about what I had done and so forth." And he says, "Well, just keep in mind that now you are on a federal watch list for 10 years as being one that threatened to kill an IRS agent." So that was beautiful, and I don't recommend that. I would advise against it. But you will all come to have encounters with authority figures at different times in your life. I've never been before a judge, but I've been pulled over by a policeman. And I know that when a policeman comes up to your car, and you roll down your window, the first thing you do is not oink, 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 when he comes to your window. That would be very offensive. You might wind up spread eagle on the ground. When you go before your boss and he is kind of incompetent, you don't tell him, that you've heard of the Peter principle, where everybody gets promoted to their level of incompetence. Well, you could say to your boss, you're a poster child for the Peter principle. But then that wouldn't be too good either. So have some idea of what you're up against when you deal with authority figures. Some that can really mess your life up and can really make your life miserable. Your boss can fire you. The police officer can arrest you. The IRS agent can do whatever. And I think that if you think a little bit more before you say things, keep in mind that you're dealing with somebody that can really change your life, and have a little respect. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Rod. I sincerely enjoyed that. I'd like to rename your speech Rod's Fables, a modern update.